Sefer Shemot, the book of Exodus, chapter 35, Torah parashat, Vayechal, Torah portion, and he assembled. And Moshe assembled all the congregation of the children of Israel and said to them, These are the words which Yahweh has commanded you to do. Work is done for 6 days, but on the 7th day it shall be set apart to you, a Sabbath of rest to Yahweh. Anyone doing work on it is put to death. Do not kindle a fire in any of your dwellings on the Sabbath day. And Moshe spoke to all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, This is the word which Yahweh commanded, saying, Take from among you a contribution to Yahweh. Everyone whose heart so moves him, let him bring it as a contribution to Yahweh, gold and silver and bronze, and blue and purple and scarlet, and fine linen, and goat's hair, and ram skins dyed red, and fine leather and acacia wood, and oil for the light, and spices for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense, and shoham stones, and stones to be set in the shoulder garment, and in the breastplate. And let all the wise-hearted among you come, and make all that Yahweh has commanded: the dwelling place, its tent and its covering, its hooks and its boards, its bars, its columns and its sockets, the ark and its poles, the lid of atonement and the veil of the covering, the table and its poles, and all its utensils and the showbread, and the lampstand for the light, and its utensils and its lamps, and the oil for the light, and the incense slaughter place, and its poles, and the anointing oil, and the sweet incense, and the covering for the door at the entrance of the dwelling place, the slaughter place of ascending offering with its bronze grating, its poles and all its utensils, the basin and its stand, the screens of this courtyard, its columns and their sockets, and the covering for the gate of the courtyard, the pegs of the dwelling place, and the pegs of the courtyard and their cords, the woven garments to do service in the set-apart place, the set-apart garments for Aharon the priest, and the garments of his sons to serve as priests. And all the congregation of the children of Israel withdrew from the presence of Moshe, and everyone whose heart lifted him up, and everyone whose spirit moved him came. And they brought the contribution to Yahweh for the work of the tent of appointment, and for all its service, and for the set-apart garments. And they came, both men and women, all whose hearts moved them, and brought earrings and nose rings, and rings and necklaces, all golden goods, even everyone who made a wave offering of gold to Yahweh. And every man with whom was found blue and purple and scarlet, and fine linen, and goat's hair, and ram skins dyed red, and fine leather brought them. Everyone who would make a contribution to Yahweh of silver or bronze brought it. And everyone with whom was found acacia wood for any work of the service brought it. And all the wise-hearted women spun yarn with their hands, and brought what they had spun, the blue and the purple and the scarlet, and the fine linen. And all the women whose hearts lifted them up in wisdom spun the goats. And the rulers brought shoham stones, and the stones to be set in the shoulder garment and in the breastplate, and the spices and the oil for the light, and for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense. The children of Israel brought a voluntary offering to Yahweh, all the men and women whose hearts moved them to bring all kinds of work which Yahweh by the hand of Moshe had commanded to be done. And Moshe said to the children of Israel, See, Yahweh has called by name Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Yehudah, and he has filled him with the spirit of Elohim, in wisdom, in understanding, and in knowledge, and in all work to make designs, to work in gold, and in silver, and in bronze, and in cutting of stones for setting, and in carving wood, and to work in all workmanship of design. And he has put in his heart the ability to teach, in him and Oholiab, son of Achisamach, of the tribe of Dan. He has filled them with skill to do all work of the engraver and the designer and embroiderer, in blue and in purple and scarlet and in fine linen, and a weaver doing any work and makers of design. And Bezalel and Oholiab, and every wise-hearted man in whom Yahweh has given wisdom and understanding, to know how to do all work for the service of the set-apart place, shall do according to all that Yahweh has commanded. And Moshe called Bezalel and Oholiab, and every wise-hearted man in whose heart Yahweh had given wisdom, everyone whose heart lifted him up, to come and do the work. And they received from Moshe all the contribution which the children of Israel had brought for the work of the service of making the set-apart place. But they still brought to him voluntary offerings every morning. So all the craftsmen who were doing all the work of the set-apart place came, each from the work he was doing. And they spoke to Moshe, saying, "The people bring much more than enough for the service of the work which Yahweh had commanded us to do." Then Moshe commanded, and they sent this word throughout the camp, saying, "Let neither man nor woman do any more work for the contribution of the set-apart place." And the people were withheld from bringing, for what they had was enough for all the work to be done, more than enough. Then all the wise-hearted ones among them who worked on the dwelling place made 10 curtains, woven of fine linen in blue and purple and scarlet. They made them with cherubim, the work of a skilled workman. The length of each curtain was 28 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits, all the curtains having one measure. And he joined 5 curtains, one to another, and the other 5 curtains he joined, one to another. And he made loops of blue on the edge of the end curtain of one set. The same he did on the edge of the end curtain of the other set. 50 loops he made on one curtain, and 50 loops he made on the edge of the end curtain of the second set. The loops held one curtain to another. And he made 50 hooks of gold, and joined the curtains to each other with the hooks, and the dwelling place became one. And he made curtains of goats for the tent over the dwelling place. He made 11 curtains. The length of each curtain was 30 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits, the 11 curtains having one measure. And he joined 5 curtains by themselves, and 6 curtains by themselves. And he made 50 loops on the edge of the end curtain in one set, and 50 loops he made on the edge of the curtain of the second set. And he made 50 bronze hooks to join the tent to be one. And he made a covering for the tent of ram skins dyed red, and a covering of fine leather above that. And for the dwelling place he made boards of acacia wood standing up. The length of each board was 10 cubits, and the width of each board a cubit and a half. Each board had 2 tenons for binding one to another. So he did to all the boards of the dwelling place. And he made boards for the dwelling place, 20 boards for the south side. And he made 40 sockets of silver to go under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under each of the boards for its 2 tenons. And for the other side of the dwelling place, for the north side, he made 20 boards. And there 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under the one board, and 2 sockets under the other board. And he made 6 boards for the west side of the dwelling place. And he made 2 boards for the 2 back corners of the dwelling place, and they were double beneath. And similarly, they were complete to the top by 1 ring. So he did to both of them for the 2 corners. And there were 8 boards, and their silver sockets, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under each of the boards. And he made bars of acacia wood, 5 for the boards on one side of the dwelling place, 5 bars for the boards on the other side of the dwelling place, and 5 bars for the boards of the dwelling place at the rear, westward. And he made the middle bar to pass through the boards from one end to the other. And he overlaid the boards with gold, and the rings he made of gold to be holders for the bars, and overlaid the bars with gold. And he made a veil of blue and purple and scarlet, and fine work linen. It was made with cherubim, the work of a skilled workman. And he made 4 columns of acacia wood for it, and overlaid them with gold with their hooks of gold. And he cast 4 sockets of silver for them. And he made a covering for the tent door of blue and purple and scarlet, and fine woven linen, made by a weaver, and his 5 columns with their hooks. And he overlaid their tops and their rings with gold, but their 5 sockets were of bronze. And Bezalel made the ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, and a cubit and a half wide, and a cubit and a half high. And he overlaid it with clean gold inside and outside, and made a molding of gold all around it. And he cast 4 rings of gold for it, for its 4 feet, 2 rings on its one side and 2 rings on its other side. And he made poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. And he put the poles into the rings at the sides of the ark to lift the ark. And he made a lid of atonement of clean gold, 2.5 cubits long and a cubit and a half wide. And he made 2 cherubim of beaten gold. He made them for the 2 ends of the lid of atonement, 1 cherub at one end on this side, and the other cherub at the other end on that side. He made the cherubim from the lid of atonement from the 2 ends. And the cherubim spread out their wings above, and covered the lid of atonement with their wings, with their faces toward each other. The faces of the cherubim were toward the lid of atonement. And he made the table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long, and a cubit wide, and a cubit and a half high. And he overlaid it with clean gold, and made a molding of gold all around it. And he made a rim of a handbreadth all around it, and made a molding of gold for the rim all around it. And he cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put the rings on the 4 corners that were at its 4 legs. The rings were next to the rim, as holders for the poles to lift the table. And he made the poles of acacia wood to lift the table, and overlaid them with gold. And he made the utensils which were on the table, its dishes and its cups, and its bowls and its jars for pouring of clean gold. And he made the lampstand of clean gold. He made the lampstand of beaten work. Its base and its shaft, its cups, its ornamental knobs, and its blossoms were from it. And 6 branches came out of its sides, 3 branches of the lampstand out of one side, and 3 branches of the lampstand out of the other side. There were 3 cups like almond flowers on one branch, with ornamental knob and blossom, 3 cups like almond flowers on the other branch, a knob and a blossom, so for the 6 branches coming out of the lampstand. And on the lampstand were 4 cups like almond flowers, its knobs and blossoms, and a knob under the first 2 branches of the same, and a knob under the second 2 branches of the same, and a knob under the third 2 branches of the same, for the 6 branches coming out of it. Their knobs and their branches were of it. All of it was one beaten work of clean gold. And he made its 7 lamps, and its snuffers, and its trays of clean gold. He made it of a talent of clean gold, and all its utensils. And he made the incense slaughter place of acacia wood, a cubit long and a cubit wide, square and 2 cubits high. Its horns were of it. And he overlaid it with clean gold, its top and its sides all around, and its horns. And he made a molding for it of gold all around it. And he made 2 rings of gold for it under its molding, at its 2 corners on both sides, as holders for the poles with which to lift it. And he made the poles of acacia wood, and overlaid them with gold. And he made the set-apart anointing oil, and the clean incense of sweet spices, according to the work of the perfumer. And he made the slaughter place of ascending offering of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits wide, square and 3 cubits high. And he made its horns on its 4 corners. The horns were of it. And he overlaid it with bronze. And he made all the utensils for the slaughter place, the pots and the shovels and the basins and the forks and the fire holders. He made all its utensils of bronze. And he made a grating for the slaughter place, a bronze network, under its rim, midway from the bottom. And he cast 4 rings for the 4 corners of the bronze grating, as holders for the poles. And he made the poles of acacia wood, and overlaid them with bronze. And he put the poles into the rings on the sides of the slaughter place, with which to lift it. He made the slaughter place hollow with boards. And he made the basin of bronze and its stand of bronze, from the bronze mirrors of the serving woman who did service at the door of the tent of appointment. And he made the courtyard for the south side. The screens of the courtyard were of fine woven linen, 100 cubits long. Their 20 columns and their 20 sockets of bronze. The hooks of the columns and their bands were of silver. And for the north side, the screens were 100 cubits long, their 20 columns and their 20 sockets of bronze. The hooks of the columns and their bands were of silver. For the west side, there were screens of 50 cubits, their 10 columns and their 10 sockets. The hooks of the columns and their bands were of silver. For the east side, eastward, 50 cubits, 15 cubits of screens on the one side, with their 3 columns and their 3 sockets, and 15 cubits of screens the other side of the courtyard gate, on this side and that side, with their 3 columns and the 3 sockets. All the screens of the courtyard all around were of fine woven linen, and the sockets for the columns were of bronze. The hooks of the columns and their bands were of silver, and the overlay of their tops was of silver, and all the columns of the courtyard had bands of silver. And the covering for the gate of the courtyard was the work of an embroiderer, of blue and purple and scarlet, and of fine woven linen, 20 cubits long, and the height along its width was 5 cubits, corresponding to the screens of the courtyard. And the columns were 4, and their sockets of bronze 4. Their hooks were of silver, and the overlay of their tops and their bands was of silver. And all the pegs of the dwelling place and of the courtyard all around were of bronze.